we are here. We did it. We are producing a YouTube show.
Woohoo!
Hi.
Hi.
Yo, yo.
Hey.
So, I mean, short story, hi, we work at Sprout, all of us. We have been collaborating with each other for a long time on so many different projects, and each of you are some of my favorite people to work with, and this team is honestly just like some of the people that know social the best at Sprout, and I learn from you all every single day.
Don't make us cry in episode
enough,
1, Liv.
enough about that.
This is getting really emotional.
I know, it kind of like did get a little emotional there for a second, but I mean, let's do like a little like round robin quickly. I'll kick it off to Rachel.
Yeah. So as Olivia said, I work with all of these folks. I manage our organic social at Sprout. We all do social for a social media company. And I've been with Sprout for 7 years.
So I'm actually on the brand creative team, but me and Olivia would DM all the time at like 3 a.m. about like TikTok and Instagram trends and everything under the sun. So we ended up kind of creating a little bit of a trend spotting series that we would like put into like TikTok and Reels. And we eventually decided that the stuff in those DMs, in those Slacks, was kind of exciting and should have its own platform. And that's how we ended up here.
Yes.
Fate.
Yeah.
Hellas is a culture like genius.
Oh, wow.
So I am the Sprout baby. As a social strategist, I joined last fall and work with the wonderful Rachel and Olivia. I've worked in all the industries. I've done freelance. I've done all of the things, and social just always pulls me back. And so when I had an opportunity to do the inception of working in social, I couldn't say no.
You put that like so perfectly, Greg. I mean, I'm Olivia. I'm one of our social strategists here, but that's like what drew me to Sprout also, just like doing social for a social company. And I think Hell is too. Like, I feel like you can relate to that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like what grounds us here, which is why I'm excited to start this show. We kind of like wanted to bring all of these minds together into like a live panel situation for a while. And I'm personally a child of YouTube. I like went pretty like geek on YouTube in my interview, I think. But as a child of YouTube, I was really excited once we really explored this concept of a panel, especially with like our social team and Hellas, just because we started seeing some other shows pop up like this that weren't audio first and were really made specifically for this platform, and it just felt like it was meant to be, and it was a really fun experiment to bring together all of us and Mal, who is our director and behind the scenes, and I'm sure you'll meet at another date and time.
MVP.
The best.
Truly. Now we can kind of jump into like what this show is, though. Basically, what we're doing here is sharing our unfiltered realities, thoughts, and opinions about social as a team who thinks and talks about social's influence every single day, whether it's like outside of our job or part of our job. So we wanted to get creative, share our thought process, and just talk because the internet is a lot for anyone to truly digest. And we realize that that is incredibly niche considering people will be consuming this show on social.
I already have goosebumps.
Stop. The idea for this show, the concept for naming this show, kind of came in 2 parts. And the first part of it was really like the feeling of social media and like how it has like accelerated trend cycles so much that it just feels like we're living parallel timelines, like everything that has ever happened and will ever happen is happening right now, like living multiple lives in like a really exciting, cool way.
Yes.
You know, when I'm working with like Olivia or the social team and we're talking about like social trends or things that we're watching and loving on social, and, you know, we'll be DMing constantly. It starts to like spiral into other things. And there are all these layers of really valuable insight and information and like interesting conversation. That's our show. It's like the nuance of this like social first life and like all the stuff that gets left on the cutting room floor is actually this show.
That's our show.
Okay, so the topic that we're talking about today is we're talking about trends, but not in the traditional sense that so many people are talking about trends right now. We're not going to be giving you our top trends for 2023, but really digging into like the mother of all trends, which is trend spotting and forecasting itself. I'm sure we've all seen the trend forecasters on TikTok and just like every marketing site that you can think of on LinkedIn, on Twitter, like marketing Twitter, like everyone is talking about what's happening in 2023.
You can't run from it.
No, you can't.
Yeah, no hiding.
Why is that happening? What is it about trend predictions in general that has people in such a chokehold? There's a lot of things.
Oof. Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to sound ruder than it is. I think that people just want to be like the first to say that they predicted something. And so forecasting became like an area that, everyone's jumping on because there's something about being the first to have like claimed that, something's going to be the next big trend.
Yeah. I feel like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy with people who have a community. If they forecast something, then it's bound. I would definitely agree with that.
And like, all right, let's get like a little philosophical, and I feel like this is a good one for you, Hel. Is like, what does it even mean to predict right now?
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, someone could predict that like ballet flats are coming back in or something. No. But like that was such a early 2000s trend, and I'm just like, but is that a prediction?
If everything is so referential and cyclical now, are trends even new? Mm-hmm. Like, we have access to so much information. We can reference anything now, Whereas like in the past, it was kind of like every decade had, its own very like unique, distinct kind of like style or aesthetic. And now because of social and because of the internet and in general, like, yeah, to predict something now, it just feels like we're just predicting what's going to come back versus what's something like completely original that's going to happen.
Yeah, because I think it stifles creativity, right? Like you feel like you have to fit in these boxes to fit the trends. Whereas if it's trend spotting for me, I want it to be like, what are some things happening in the world that we can translate to social or digital, right? Yeah. Like those creativity, like it's more the creativity that I like and not feeling so forced into certain boxes. Like, oh, to get this TikTok content, I have to relate it to this trend or sound, and it just feels so stifling sometimes, even though it's like a catch-22 because there's so much like opportunity out there. Yeah. And so that's the frustrating thing in like the social space for me.
When Wednesday kind of came back and was cool because the Tim Burton resurgence and Jenna taking everything that happened there, I thought that was super interesting because the Addams Family hasn't really gone anywhere. But at the same time, as much as I don't know that you can predict, I think you can hear what the internet has to say and say, like, very early on, I think this is going to expand past the internet. Or you can say, I think this is going to just be like one of those trends that kind of cycles through.
Well, and like how fast things are dying now.
Yeah.
The Wednesday thing lasted for like less than a month and people were kind of like over it, and it's like become like this other, like it's influenced some other things, but like the Wednesday hype.
I don't know. I'm still listening to Bloody Mary. That
Yes.
Bloody Mary
Oh my
remix.
gosh.
I
still
was so
listening to
happy
it.
when that
It's
came back.
so
I was like, I
good,
haven't
that
listened to
remix.
this song in forever. But yeah, same.
What's hilarious is that wasn't even in the show.
I know.
Yes.
That was that was a fan made thing. And now that song is fully associated, so much so associated with that show that on Spotify, when you play Bloody Mary, like the motion graphic that goes with the song is from Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Someone at Spotify deserves a raise.
Honestly.
Truly.
Kind of like stepping back from this like philosophical trend conversation, like how is the current market impacting how we're planning and predicting and like what will happen next? Like how is this going to impact social team structures? Like how is it going to impact just like how we're planning for content and like channel specific approaches and things like that?
I almost think there's this false sense of urgency, and I want to explain that because I think there's urgency, right, with trends and what's happening on TikTok in the moment, but that almost leads to social teams thinking that they don't need to plan things out in advance. I was just reading like Amtrak when they did their trains tweet, and it kicked off all of the brands doing that. They actually planned that for like 3 months.
Mhm.
And so leading up to certain moments and whatnot, like, yes, there's things that you can tap into, but I hope that it doesn't lead social teams to think that planning and research and kind of intentionality really authentically with their brand isn't lost. So that's not something that is totally there yet, but it's something I worry about.
Yeah. It's almost like I want to remind people, like, yes, you can take advantage of the moment, but ultimately you want to create the moment.
That part, yes.
Yeah,
You
that
know, I
part.
think
Yeah,
sometimes,
snaps.
like, people get lost in, I want to follow this trend or whatever, but the people who use trends the best have like an original reason to attach themselves to that trend. And so if it's not there, like we've always talked about, if it doesn't work, like just don't try to make it happen, like square peg round hole thing.
Yeah, originality and like a significance, like something meaningful for how it attaches to your brand or your social presence. Otherwise, it just feels like bandwagoning, and that's not always. I feel like people suss that out immediately, and they're just like,
Yeah,
100%. Well, and even with the
Yeah.
Wednesday example, right? Like TikTok
Yeah.
dances were a thing. They put their own spin on it with their own original clip. They did the behind the scenes with Wednesday, Jen Ortega. And so, yeah, I think there's a fine line between Hella's bandwagoning and then like creating that moment that Rachel's talking about.
Yeah.
I think Rachel, you'll have like a really good perspective on this too, because I think obviously like with the state of the market right now, I know there's a lot of like layoffs and budget cuts that social teams are dealing with. So what is the risk if brands and companies deprioritize social? Which that's a really big answer, but I think like in relation to what we're talking about, that is something like that's like where my mind is going.
No pressure, Rachel.
Yeah, it's just like setting me up for soapbox.
I know. Let's get emotional.
Gosh. I mean, I think it's a few things. I think the smartest brands will know that they have to be the creators of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so the smartest brands will prioritize using social to research what their customers need and want and what they're talking about. And instead of trying to fit in, they're going to take all of that and use it to come up with an innovative idea or like enhance their product and march to the beat of their own drum.
If a brand divests in social, the risk is really that like you're losing like all humanity that you've ever built, because really what do you have left? You have like big ads that you're spending on, like, I know we can't say but bleep me out here. Ads that were like the most impactful ones are influenced by social. You have paid ads, which often don't have the same humanity as like organic social does, or same impact at least on your customers, because you don't have that like two-way connection.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Invisible and no lifespan.
Yes. What is your last like video on TikTok, which is really like the home of, or it's really like where every trend is starting right now?
Yeah, so mine, I watched it last night. It was this spoof TikTok of normalizing millennials making awkward phone calls. And I just felt seen. I've called like doctor's offices. I had to call the vet the other week. And I'm extroverted, but it's something about the phone call that just makes things so cringe. And I try to be like overly conversational. They cut you off. And I just felt very, very seen. And I'm leaning into all of my awkward ways from here onward, if I haven't already.
Have any of you accidentally told a customer service person that you love them? Because I've done that like once, and it's like been the worst. I've gotten TikToks about that too, but
Cringe.
I've been bombarded with like pebble ice videos, and it's because don't tell my dentist, but shout out, my dentist is amazing, Dr. Sana. He's the dentist for the Blackhawks, which is a weird flex, but
Oh, wow. Yes.
And
All right,
anyway, don't tell
okay.
him, but I like to chew ice. But there's this like ice machine that's really hot on TikTok right now. But I got a TikTok from this girl who was kind of like demystified the recommendation. And so I liked it, and I also sent it to my partner, and I was like, forget everything I said about wanting this ice machine, because it's not true. But
It's like the
that's,
most niche thing I've ever heard.
Truly, like, I understand how niche it can get. That
Mhm.
still surprised me.
Yeah, that is
Rachel
not
is
what
always
I thought.
in the niche. Yeah, like Rachel is like, are you
The
in
niche
tater
of the
tot
niche.
TikTok?
no, I live in like the cursed areas of TikTok, and there's a few of us who have like been cursed before. But
Definitely. I can't remember exactly which last TikTok I watched, but I remember the trend that it was. And it was a woman getting ready for work, and somebody else will ask her, like another woman will be like, what are you getting ready for? And she'll say for work, and it's like she's from 2023, and this other person speaking to her is from the past. When women, you couldn't necessarily go to work. They have like a moment, and there's like a nice little like touching song over it. It's like, it's a wholesome trend. I love that.
I love that.
I'm curious to see like what other forms that takes too. The last video I liked on TikTok was this like French butter that this
Ooh.
like
Yes.
food TikToker. Have you seen that, Rachel?
Which one?
I don't remember what it was
I'm
called.
obsessed.
It's like, okay, it's like a white package with like
Mhm.
blue design on it, and then there's
okay,
like salt on
I do
top
know what
and
you're talking
stuff.
The
about.
chunky salt.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
she didn't like say like where to find it, but now I feel like I'm like on the hunt to find
So
this.
there's two TikTokers. There's Condiment Claire,
Okay.
and then there's
Yes.
Danielle, who started the whole like mussels and chili crisp and caviar and Doritos thing.
Yeah.
The Tin Fish Girlies.
The Tin Fish Girls. Yeah. There's one other Tin Fish girl. Her name's Allie Hook, and they're like the Tin
What a
Fish
name
trio.
for tin fish influencing,
On brand.
you know?
Yeah, no, truly.
Do you have any intel on like where to buy this butter?
Like in France, or like in some sort of like local, probably Whole Foods, maybe.
What are we seeing right now on social that we think will inform what might happen next? So let's get into it. I think we kind of identified like 3 themes when we were chatting a little bit about this topic before the show. And the first one is this like need and want for hyper personalization. Early social, we had like, AOL and MySpace, and they were pages that we curated ourselves. We didn't really have like this expectation of like what they should be or what they shouldn't be, because it was just a representation of like who you are. But then we moved into this like 2010s through like 2017 era of social where everything was hyper curated. And now we're kind of reverting back to this like need and want for hyper personalization again, where we have photo dumps and like people are doing creating TikToks of just like photo carousels that are like super raw images that they have in their camera roll. What are we trying to go back to and pinpoint like what we're yearning for?
Yeah, like for me, personal social media became so much effort. Curating was exhausting. And so I think that's the pendulum swinging for me a little bit of we just want to not feel so on in the digital space anymore because we're still on other places of our lives.
Yeah. Even as non-content creators, like it feels like a labor still sometimes to post everywhere. Like just even after a night out, I'm like, if I don't dump everything now, it doesn't feel like I can dump everything later. Or if I try to dump everything later, I want to do it with other stuff. And then I max out my 10 posts in the Instagram carousel and
Yeah.
I end up not posting anything, or dumping everything on TikTok.
That is like the magic of social, which is it's super authentic. And we kind of moved away from that authenticity and everything needed to be really polished. And I think we've moved back to the time of like,
Yeah, we've definitely,
and
we're in that time now.
Like-
it is.
We're at that super
Yeah.
authentic point in the show where we've got sirens and other things going on.
Unread and uncurated.
For real.
Yeah.
But I think that's what people
Yeah.
want to see
Yeah.
because I think people don't relate to the
Mhm.
more curated posts and all of that.
I think that's where we're kind of headed. Like, we're already kind of seeing people miss Tumblr and like just places where you can like dump like a feeling, like photos and whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I think people want something that's going to be exactly akin to like Facebook albums.
Yeah.
So because we are just tired.
I think two things too, like community is a hotly debated word in the social space, but community really drives social spaces. Like, it's the nichifying of everything, I guess.
Well, in the hot button question, every time there's a new platform, you know, like Mastodon, there's always a conversation of to do or to not do in terms of brands joining. There's always a blog post on every new platform, TikTok, how brands should show up. And so I think there's this, to Rachel's point, like a hunger for that genuine niche where it doesn't feel like I'm scrolling through this content and it's infiltrating to just sell me.
And I think this is like where TikTok really like transformed what social is, because before TikTok, like we were still in that hyper curated space of social, whether it was personal or from like brand accounts. There are a lot of ads. There's like a lot of I guess like they mean the same thing now, but creator versus influencer. Like before TikTok, it was influencer, and you were influencing and getting paid to post, and you were questioning really like what actually was authentic versus what wasn't authentic, and like were they just saying this thing because they got paid to do it. Then enter TikTok, you got all of these creators that who like didn't set out to become a creator and have the influence that they have. They just got that following because they were super authentic to who they are. And now I think we're sort of entering this era of like, okay, people are setting out to be creators again, but you know, some of this other recent stuff that has happened in like the makeup side of TikTok, where there's like this controversy around a creator who like recommended this mascara, and then everyone like saw that she put falsies on.
Falsies.
And like now we're kind of entering that era of like, oh, like what is really authentic, because we thought TikTok was that place. And you know, I mean, I feel for like that creator too, because I don't think like I don't think that person ever like set out to say, I want to like influence this amount of people. It kind of just fell into her lap because she was like having fun with makeup. And like, I mean, it happened in like this like incident, but like that now affects like the trust of like a brand's consumers and like her own followers. And
well, and it's just like social media, right? Like I grew up self-taught social media. I didn't get like etiquette and ethics and all of that taught. I had to learn the best do's and don'ts on my own. And I feel like now we're in the same place with creators and influencers, right? Like there's no like real strong rule book if you want to be a creator or influencer.
I think it's super interesting the links like brands or anybody will go to make something feel authentic.
Kind of to get back to the point, it's like people are craving like that hyper personalization and authenticity. And I think a lot of that lives within this like sense of community, to your earlier point, Rachel, like with places like Reddit and Clubhouse and Mastodon. Like there are all of these like community spaces, but at the same time, the thing that's so different about them, and I think TikTok is a little bit this way too, is that you still kind of have this like anonymous like void.
Well, and I can join a Clubhouse from the comfort of my bed, snuggled up in my PJs, and just worry about people hearing me and not be so curated. And so I think there's this allure of that anonymity, but still have a sense of community. And of course, there's dark sides and great sides to both, but I think there's a little bit of like an appeal for folks there.
I live in the comment section of TikTok. I always forget that like it's not just an errant thought I've put into the universe. And like it's happened twice where my comments has gotten like 400 or 500 likes. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. I totally forgot.
Or when someone you know finds your comment and likes it. And it's like, no, I didn't want you to find me in the comment section.
Yeah. I just got like, I just visibly shook a little.
kind of switching gears a little bit, something that's happening right now and like everyone is seeing this, just like the introduction of like more AI. It's been around for so long, but there's like so many new developments that are happening right now, especially in the social space.
I have a hot take.
Ooh, yes, spicy takes.
I just feel like we act like AI hasn't been here, and like ChatGPT is our first introduction to AI or machine learning. And I would like everyone to know that like all of our algorithms, like everything that influences us, social listening, analyzing comments, social data, all of that stuff is powered by AI and machine learning. So I think it's very much being trendified, like we talked about, but we don't realize how much we all rely on it.
Yeah, I think there are elements of AI that are like new and unfamiliar and probably yield discomfort, but honestly what overwhelms me the most is the rhetoric around AI, right? Like it is just like the trendifying, to Rachel's point, that is missing a lot of the points that we, as we've all mentioned, like it's been around, it is present in most of our lives. So honestly, the rhetoric and like the fanning the fire on the scare tactics are what overwhelms me more than the actual like tool and technology itself.
Yeah.
It's becoming more integrated into just like the average person's life.
Yeah.
So I think that's where some of the like reaction is coming from. And it is kind of like taking people to that place, Greg, like you were saying, of maybe a little fear of like how far this could go, and like, has no one ever seen like a dystopian movie before? Why are we going this route?
Yes, like the Haley Joel Osment
Yeah.
Okay, so we just unpacked a lot in this episode. I want to end with, what is something that we all want to see in the future of social? Like what do all of these things that we're seeing right now lead us to down the line?
I would be so stoked to see us go back to like some kind of album type social platform. I just want a place where I can dump everything and you can view everything I've ever posted. It doesn't go away after 24 hours. I can post more than 10 things in a post. I want the nature of dumping to like be its own social platform.
I could see that like actually happening.
Well, then because then I can delete half of the 28,000 photos on my phone.
That's so true, though.
I'm just like ready for people to take advantage of the fact that they like have so much information at their fingertip and actually like surprise me and entertain me and just like keep making me excited about social.
I want to see things that are like more innovative and like original versus this like recycled content and audio that we've like seen. Like we're nostalgic for like the old TikTok days and things like that, but it's all kind of been like done before. Like when is the last time we've like really seen like originality on social, whether it's like from like users or brands? I think it happens like obviously sometimes, and those bring those surprising moments, but I think I just want to see like more of that.
I want to feel like it's catered to me a little bit, a little personalized surprise in the space, because I think, to Rachel's point, there's so much information to synthesize. So if we can marry the surprise and delight to niche tin fish world, right, that would be amazing.
I want everyone to see everything. I don't want to have to curate anything out.
Hence Unread. I mean, I feel like that honestly was like a really good way to end this episode. That was perfect, Hellas. Let's cue end of video rituals. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, activate notifications if that's your kind of thing, and leave us a comment if you enjoyed this episode or have suggestions for future episodes. And we'll see you next time.
Woot!
Bye!